name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Yesterday we had a very nice early Thanksgiving dinner for the homeless, and the nice part about it was that we didn't have to do anything because it was put on by an organization that approached us to have this dinner, and that they would do everything. And of course, I was a little dubious, but really they did a wonderful job, and it was a very nice event. And it was the person that sort of spearheaded it was a young African-American man who has started his own sort of school, finishing school, to help young adults to learn sort of basic, really life skills kind of things, you know, even how to open a bank account and keep a checkbook and things like that. And his relatives were, anyway, all the people were very nice that were there. And I gave the blessing. That was the one thing I did. And went about my Saturday chores and would check in once in a while. And one of the women on the staff said, "There's a woman in there who wants to talk to you." And I embarrassed to say, but the first thing I thought was, uh-oh, now what? And he said, "There's a lady with the beanie in the back." And I thought, oh, beanie, something crazy here. But you know, I went in and sat with her, and I said, "What can I do for you?" She said, "Well, I want to pray." And she took my hand and bowed her head, and so I prayed, and she prayed, and then we were very calm and peaceful. And she really didn't ask for anything. She just told me her story, and her story was, you know, pretty drastic. She was sleeping under the bridge, and has no identification and no money, and a story like that. But really, she didn't ask me for anything. I asked her how she got to Atlanta. She said she was on her way to Mississippi to a mental institution where she had been, but because she wants to take the label off that is on her. She does not want that to be her identity. And you know, the clinician in me said, "Well, dear, you know, you have to have some kind of diagnosis so they can give you your disability, and so you can." And she said, "I don't want to take that medicine either." Okay. And you know, I didn't try to talk her out of it or agree with her. I just listened to her, and I did tell her how she could get ID, but you know, the whole thing was very peaceful. You know, at first I was sort of tense because I was thinking, you know, I would have to start making lots of phone calls and running around this and that, and really, I think a real key was that we just prayed first. We really prayed, and you know, this is the most thing that she wanted from me. I told her to come back Monday, and we would try to help her with other things, but you know, one of the things that I just remembered, I thought, you know, instead of thinking all those things as I was approaching her, I just prayed first, you know, and I think that that's probably true about all our encounters with people we don't really know, or any kind of conversation of any sort of import, or maybe any time before we open our mouth, we should say a little prayer, because you know, we're going to be held accountable for what comes out of our mouth, for one thing, but the other thing is we are Orthodox Christians, and we should always assume that whoever comes to us was sent by God. I mean, of course, the woman told me that. She said, "You know, I was sent here," you know, and I'm thinking, and since you believe in deja vu, and you know, she was, you know, unusual, but I just didn't judge it, because I said, who am I to say whether she was sent here by God or not? You know, apparently she was. You know, it gave me something to give a sermon about. But The reason I bring this up is because we have the story of the Good Samaritan today, and I know that you or probably most people that have been around here, you're aware that in addition to being a very important moral story about our treatment of strangers and our kind of obligation to help, the fathers see this as an icon of the church, where the Lord, the Good Samaritan is the Lord, who finds us having come down from Jerusalem, which is the city, the holy city, the city where God dwells, then into Jericho, which is kind of in the lowlands, it's sort of the darker side of life. And here, this person who represents every man, is attacked by demons and stripped of his humanity and left robbed and naked and half dead. And then the Lord comes and puts him upon his own beast. This idea, and this is a image of the incarnation. The Lord took our burden upon himself and poured in wine and oil, which is clearly sort of sacramental image, and brought him to the inn, where he had told the innkeeper and the staff there to take care of him, and gave them 2 pence, which the fathers say this is like the Old Testament and the New Testament. This is what you have to heal people with. And said, and if anything you spend, I'll reimburse you when I come again. And it occurred to me, and I hadn't really thought about this before, the Lord doesn't picture us as the ones going out and finding these people. He's the one that brings them into the church, which St. Basil called the hospital for souls, and which we all need because we've all fallen from the holy place. We've all fallen from the state of grace. And so I'm thinking even in the microcosm of our own little church, when new people come, I think we should assume that the Lord has sent them, and that we shouldn't be like the priests and Levites who sort of notice and pass on. They're busy. Later on in that day, I was passing through one more time, and I had to get something. And one of the older women who was there said, "Oh, look how busy he is doing the Lord's work." I thought, well, I'm going to Lowe's to pick out some carpet. But and I was going to say that, but I thought, why? Why just accept that? I guess it's part of the Lord's work. But I wonder where the priest and the Levite were going. That they stopped and looked and said, you can just imagine they go, this man, I don't recognize him. Who is he? We have to find his. I don't have time for all this. I have to go. Or they just said, doesn't look like a Jew to me, and we don't touch these other people. So let his people find him. I don't know what they said. All I know is that it was only the stranger who took pity, who had compassion, this one that was sort of an outsider, which is what Jesus became. And so I think that we sometimes, when we see situations, and whatever it is, doesn't necessarily have to be a physical situation, I think that we get a little worried, we get a little afraid that, oh my goodness, what can I do? I don't know what to do, and I have so many things I'm doing already, and I don't know if I can get involved, and maybe, is this person for real? I think that we should just stop and listen, and we should always pray. And we should realize that we don't have to provide everything. Jesus provides it. He says, I'll provide it. You make yourself available, and if you are lacking something, don't have enough, don't worry, I'll reimburse it. I'll take care of it. And we have this wonderful saint, John the Almsgiver, this morning, and in the little life in the prologue, which is printed on your brochure, it says it talks as a story about St. John the Almsgiver. It says, another time he was on his way to the church of St. Cyrus and John, and it happened, by the way, St. Cyrus and John, of course, are the great healers, you know, the icon of the doctor of the soul. It happened that he met a needy and unfortunate widow who spoke to him at length about her misfortune. The patriarch's escorts became bored by the woman's lengthy complaint and urged the bishop to hurry to the church for the service, intimating that he could hear the woman's story afterwards. John said to them, "And how will God listen to me if I do not listen to her?" He would not leave until he heard the widow's complaint to the end. And you know, at the end of his life, St. John the Almsgiver, who, you know, inherited was already wealthy and inherited a very rich diocese of Antioch, he was very proud to let it be known that he had spent every cent. And he'd spent it all on building churches and on building institutions and on direct charity to the poor. And he felt like, oh, I guess I'm ready to die because I've done everything I could do. And I don't know what his successor thought about that, but I'm sure he managed. And I'm also sure that whatever St. John spent, he was reimbursed more than in full by the Lord when he went to meet him. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.